I pulled the trigger on my career with a single email framing my boss for embezzlement he didn't commit, except he did, and so much worse. But as the cuffs clicked around his wrists in that fluorescent-lit boardroom, his eyes locked on mine, and he mouthed the words that still haunt me. "You owe me your life, Scarlett." And damn if he wasn't right, because 20 years ago, I'd buried his dirty secret deeper than my own guilt, letting it fester like an open wound in the heart of Wall Street. It started in the relentless grind of New York finance, where dreams get shredded faster than quarterly reports. I was Scarlett Hayes, 38, VP of Risk Assessment at Vanguard Capital, the kind of firm where sharks swim in Armani suits and the only blood spilled is metaphorical until it's not. I'd clawed my way up from a Jersey girl scraping by on community college loans, fueled by black coffee and the blind faith that loyalty paid dividends. My mentor, Harlan Crow, was the godfather of it all, silver-tongued Southerner transplanted to the concrete jungle with a drawl that could charm a jury and eyes that promised the moon. He plucked me from the analyst pool 12 years back, whispering in my ear during late-night audits, "Scarlett, darlin', you're the only one I trust with the real numbers." I ate it up because in this city, trust is rarer than an honest broker. But trust is a two-way street, and Harlan drove a Hummer down mine. It was 2013, the Dodd-Frank era still fresh, when regulations bit harder than a recession hangover. We were knee-deep in a merger with a shady Midwest energy outfit. Think coal barons laundering green through carbon credits. Harlan saw the angle. Skim a few mil off the top, funnel it through offshore shells, and retire to a Gulfstream life in the Caymans. I found the discrepancies first. Ledgers that danced like drunk sailors, invoices vanishing like smoke. When I confronted him in his corner office, Hudson River glittering like fool's gold below us, he didn't deny it. Instead, he poured me a scotch, neat, and leaned in close. "Scarlett, this firm's my legacy. You think the board cares about ethics? They're the ones who greenlit it. But if this leaks..." His voice cracked, just once, and that's when he dropped the bomb. "I covered for you, back in '05. That intern who OD'd in the supply closet? The one whose coke habit you enabled? I made it disappear. Paid off the family, scrubbed the logs. You were green, kid, 18, interning for summer credits. I saved your ass." The room spun. I'd buried that night deeper than a federal indictment. Fresh out of high school, hustling for tuition, I'd partied too hard at a firm mixer, passing lines to keep up with the big boys. The intern, Mikey, 19, wide-eyed from Ohio, followed my lead, and by dawn, he was blue-lipped on the floor. Panic hit like a freight train. Harlan, then a rising director, swooped in, called it an accident, hushed the cleaners, wired cash to Mikey's folks in some godforsaken trailer park. "No one knows but us," he'd said then, clapping my shoulder like a proud dad. Welcome to the family. I'd owed him ever since, a debt compounded with interest in every promotion, every blind eye to his creative accounting. So when the merger audit loomed, I swallowed the fraud like bad medicine. Signed off on the falsified reports, my digital signature a scarlet letter. But karma's a bitch with a Bloomberg terminal. A whistleblower, some junior quant with a messiah complex, tipped the SEC. The feds swarmed like roaches at dawn, subpoenas raining down. Harlan, ever the fox, pinned it all on me. "Scarlett's the one who handled the integrations," he testified, voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel, eager to prove herself. I had no idea. The board, those spineless suits, threw me under the bus faster than you can say plausible deniability. Fired on the spot, blackballed from every street firm from Battery Park to Boston. My name became toxic waste, Scarlett Hayes, the fall girl who cooked the books. The fallout was biblical. My Tribeca loft went into foreclosure, views of the skyline mocking me through eviction notices. Jake, my husband of 5 years, a mid-level ad exec with a smile like a golden retriever, packed his bags the day the headlines hit. "I can't build a life on lies, Scar," he said, eyes wet but feet already out the door. Our dog, Buster, peed on the rug in protest. Friends ghosted. Invitations to Hamptons weekends dried up like a margarita at last call. I crashed on my sister's couch in Queens, staring at the ceiling fan, plotting escape routes that all led back to rage. But rage needs fuel, and mine ignited when I hacked Harlan's private server. Yeah, I learned a few tricks from those late nights. Buried in encrypted folders, not just the merger scam, but a web of betrayals. Emails to the board, bribing them with kickbacks. Proof he'd framed 2 others before me, a traitor in '09, a compliance officer in '16, both suicides in the aftermath. And the kicker, recordings of him laughing about Mikey. Kid was collateral. Scarlett's my golden ticket now. That was it. The debt? Paid in full, with compound interest. I spent 6 months in the shadows, scraping by on freelance gigs for crypto bros who didn't check references. Dyed my hair brunette, traded stilettos for sneakers, became a ghost in the machine. Then, the turnaround. Vanguard imploded without me. Harlan's house of cards collapsed under SEC scrutiny, stock plummeting like a drunk off a ledge. The board ousted him, but not before he lawyered up, spinning tales of my rogue actions. He landed soft, consulting for a boutique in Miami, yacht parties with the elite.
Me?
I rebuilt in the underbelly, freelance forensics for whistleblowers, exposing corporate rot from a laptop in dive bars. Until the call came. Vanguard's new CEO, a no-nonsense Latina from Goldman, wanted me back. "We need someone who knows where the bodies are buried," she said over Zoom, her Brooklyn edge cutting through the bullshit. "Not as an employee, as a consultant. Clean the slate." I laughed, bitter as rye. What's in it for me? Turns out, everything. A fat retainer, equity stake, and a public exoneration. Harlan's lies unraveled in depositions. My name cleared, sort of. The street buzzed. Scarlet Hayes, the phoenix from the fraud ashes. But phoenixes don't forgive. I took the gig, moved back to a sleek walk-up in Soho, and waited. Harlan, sensing the tide turn, started circling. Anonymous emails at first. "We need to talk, darlin'. For old times." Then flowers at my door, red roses, thorns intact. I ignored them, but he escalated, showing up at my sister's barbecue in Astoria. All southern charm and khakis. "Scarlett, honey, this city's too small for grudges." Jake was there, awkward as hell, his new girlfriend hanging off his arm like a knockoff purse. Harlan clapped me on the back, whispered, "I made you," as if erasing the noose he'd tied. That's when the real game began. I fed the CEO intel, Harlan's Miami ties, the suicides he'd orchestrated. But he was slippery, always 3 steps ahead, flipping alliances like a poker pro. He charmed the board again, leaked counterdirt, doctored chats making me look unstable, vengeful. Whispers spread, Scarlett's out for blood. The tension coiled like a spring in a bear trap. Late nights in the office, I'd catch him in the shadows, that drawl echoing down empty halls. "You think you can bury me? I dug your grave first." My heart hammered, but I played cool, documenting every threat, every leer. The city pulsed around us, horns blaring on Broadway, steam rising from manholes like demons escaping hell. New York doesn't sleep. It schemes. By month 3, the board was fracturing. Some wanted Harlan's head, others mine, for disrupting harmony. The CEO pulled me aside in a dive near Wall Street, pastrami sandwiches sweating on Formica. "This is chess, Scarlett. He's got half the pieces." I nodded, but inside, the plan crystallized. Revenge isn't a checkmate, it's poisoning the board. I planted the seeds, anonymous tips to the feds about Harlan's offshore accounts, time to drop during the annual gala. Black tie at the Met, champagne flutes clinking like fragile egos. I showed up in emerald silk, hair swept up, a ghost among the glitterati. Harlan cornered me by the Egyptian wing, obelisks looming like ancient judges. "You're playing with fire, girl." His breath reeked of bourbon, eyes wild. "Remember Mikey? I could unbury that any time." I smiled, slow and sharp. "Dig all you want, Harlan. The dirt's on you now." That's when the whispers started. Feds in the lobby, badges flashing under chandeliers. Panic rippled like a stone in the Hudson. Harlan bolted, but not before grabbing my wrist, nails digging in. This isn't over. It was, though, at least I thought. As sirens wailed into the night, I slipped out, the city's neon blurring my tears. Victory tasted like ash. Back home, Buster curled at my feet, but sleep evaded. What had I unleashed? The next morning, the headline screamed, Crow surrenders in multi-million fraud ring. But buried in paragraph 12, Associate Scarlett Hayes, once implicated, now key witness. The begging started at dawn. My buzzer rang incessantly. Board members, lawyers, even Jake, voice cracking through the intercom. Scarlett, please. We need your side. Foreclosure. Closure? I'd give them Armageddon. They came in waves, like rats fleeing a sinking ship, pounding on my door until the neighbors in the walk-up threatened to call the cops. First was Elena, the CEO, all power heels and no-nonsense Bob, clutching a leather folio like a shield. Scarlett, we fucked up. Harlan's spilling everything. Names, dates, the works. He's dragging us all down unless you testify. I let her in, brewed weak coffee in my galley kitchen, the kind that tastes like regret. Buster growled from his bed, sensing the rot. Elena paced, heels clicking like a metronome of doom. The board's in chaos. Investors pulling out. We need you to corroborate. Paint him as the puppet master. Her eyes, dark and desperate, mirrored mine from the bad days. I almost pitied her. Almost. Sit, I said, voice flat as the East River at low tide. She did, perching on my thrift store couch like it might bite. I laid it out. The ledgers, the bribes, Mikey's ghost rattling in the closet. But I held back the twist, the part where Harlan claimed he'd saved me out of love, not leverage. Some twisted paternal shit. Emails I'd found confessing he'd watched me since that internship, grooming me like a prize filly. You're my redemption, Scarlett. One read, time-stamped after a bender. Creepy as hell, but it humanized the monster. Made the revenge taste sour. Elena nodded, scribbling notes. This seals it. But he says you knew about the suicides. Pushed him to it. Lies, of course, but in the gray fog of depositions, truth bends like light in a funhouse. By noon, the suits arrived. 3 board elders, faces like weathered granite from decades of mergers. They offered olive branches, bonuses, a corner office, my name etched in marble at the next gala. We're family, Scarlett. One droned, a wasp relic with a Rolex that screamed old money. Family? I'd seen what that meant when they sacrificed me on the altar of stock prices. I laughed, a bark that echoed off my exposed brick walls. Family doesn't frame you for felony fraud. They shifted, uncomfortable in my space. Too lived in, too real for their penthouse polish. Buster peed on the one's loafer. I didn't apologize. As they left, tails between legs, Harlan's lawyer slithered in via email. Settle out of court. Or the Mikey tape surface. Attached, grainy security footage, my younger self in the frame, blurred but damning. The city closed in, a pressure cooker of honking taxis and steam vents. I walked the streets, collar up against the November chill, dodging tourists gawking at the Oculus like it was the 8th wonder. My mind replayed the flips, Harlan's charm turning to venom, the board's loyalty evaporating like morning fog. Was I any different? Consulting for Vanguard now felt like sleeping with the enemy, but the checks cleared, and power's an aphrodisiac. Jake showed up that evening, uninvited, 6-pack in hand like we were still kids at Rutgers tailgates. His new girl, Tara, blonde, bubbly, everything I wasn't, waited in the lift, scrolling Insta. Scar, I saw the news. You're back. His eyes pleaded, that boyish grin cracked at the edges. We cracked a beer on the fire escape, city lights twinkling like distant gunfire. I was wrong to leave, he admitted, voice thick. Harlan got in my head, said you were unstable, that the fraud changed you. Unstable. I echoed, the word a slap. He ruined me, Jake. And you bailed. He winced, reached for my hand. I pulled away, the railing cold under my palms. Below, a street preacher ranted about Judgment Day, his flock nodding in the glow of a bodega sign. Jake spilled. Harlan had wined and dined him post-divorce, dropping hints about my instability. Therapy sessions I'd never had, affairs fabricated from thin air. He played me like a mark, Jake said, defeated. Part of me wanted to bridge the gap, let the old us resurface in shared silence. But revenge doesn't share. Go home to Tara, I said finally. This fire's mine to stoke. He left with a hug that lingered too long, and I slammed the window, heart pounding like a subwoofer at a block party. Sleep was a joke. Nightmares of Mikey's face, blue and accusing, morphing into Harlan's smirk. Dawn brought the feds, 2 agents in off-the-rack suits, badges heavy as guilt. They grilled me in a Starbucks near Foley Square, lattes cooling untouched. Crow's cooperating, the woman said, notebook poised. Claims you orchestrated the leaks to settle a personal score. Something about an old debt. I met her gaze, steady. He saved me once. I repaid him by taking the fall.
Now?
Balance due. They nodded, but doubt flickered. Harlan's flips were legendary, but so was mine. As they left, my phone buzzed. Elena, frantic. He's in the wind. Skipped bail, headed south. But he left this, at your old loft. A package, innocuous manila, waiting like a bomb. I retrieved it from the super, hands trembling as I tore it open in the lobby elevator. Inside, a USB drive and a note in Harlan's scrawl. Watch, darlin'. Then decide. The footage played on my laptop that night, wine glass sweating in my fist. It was me, post-internship in Harlan's office, 18, tipsy, thanking him profusely. But cut to black, then audio only. His voice, confessional. I didn't just cover for you, Scarlett. I pushed Mikey toward that party. Knew he was fragile, testing you. Had to see if you'd break or bend. My stomach lurched. The betrayal deepened, a chasm. He'd engineered the OD, used it to hook me, a spider spinning silk from tragedy. Tears hot, I hurled the drive. It clattered against the wall, screen freezing on my naive smile. Harlan wasn't just cunning, he was diabolical, flipping victim to villain with surgical precision. The gala aftermath hit like a hangover. Vanguard's stock tanked 15%, layoffs rippling through the ranks. Elena called daily, voice fraying. Testify, Scarlett. End this. But ending meant choosing sides in a war where both were stained. I dug deeper, hiring a PI, ex-cop from the Bronx, all gravel voice and cheap cigars. He uncovered Harlan's trail, Miami penthouse, fake passports, a lover half his age who looked eerily like me. Guys unhinged, the PI grunted over burner phone, mumbling about finishing the family. Chills raced my spine. The tension peaked at a off-site retreat, Vanguard's Hail Mary, team building in the Catskills. I went, against gut, posing as neutral consultant. Log cabin vibes clashed with boardroom egos, trust falls turning literal, axes to grind at the wood-chopping demo. Harlan crashed it, of course, slipping past security, like a bad habit. Midnight, bonfire crackling, shadows dancing on pine trunks. He emerged from the woods, disheveled in flannel over his Brooks Brothers, eyes fever-bright. Scarlett. My name a curse. The group froze, Elena Middismore, board suits clutching IPAs. He ranted, drawl slurred. She started it all. That night, the coke, I supplied it, framed the kid to own her. But she betrayed me first by living. Gasps rippled. Phones emerged, recording the meltdown. I stepped forward, voice steel. You made me your pawn, Harlan. Time to abdicate. He lunged, not violent but desperate, grabbing my collar. We're the same, monsters in silk. Security swarmed, but his words hung, polarizing the firelit faces. Was I avenger or architect? As they dragged him away, howling about tapes and truths, Elena pulled me aside, whisper fierce. That changes everything. If he's telling the truth. She trailed off, eyes accusing. The group fractured. Whispers of settlements, of me as the real threat. Back in the city, alone in my apartment, Buster's snores the only anchor. I stared at the USB. Play it again? Or burn it with the bridges? The revenge climax loomed, a razor wire. I walked blind. The drive back to Manhattan was a funeral procession. Rain-slicked eye, 87, wipers slapping like accusations.
Elena rode shotgun, silent fury radiating.
If Harlan's right, Scarlett, the feds will bury us both. Her words sliced, but I drove on, knuckles white on the wheel, city lights smearing into judgment. The retreat had splintered vanguard, half the board demanding my head, the other half Harlan's on a platter. Texts piled up, Jake's worried emojis, the PI's gruff, he's holed up in Jersey, armed with lawyers. Armed. The word echoed, twisting the knife. I'd started this fire, but now it consumed indiscriminately, flames licking at innocence like Elena's rising star. Home was sanctuary turned siege. Reporters camped outside, vans idling like predators, cameras hungry for the next soundbite. Scarlet Hayes, victim or vixen, blared the Post app, my face photoshopped next to Harlan's, a modern-day Bonnie sans Clyde. I barricaded with Buster's food bowls and takeout lo mein, screen glow my only companion. The USB taunted from the counter, a Pandora's box in polymer. Finally, 3 a.m., bourbon burning my throat, I plugged it in. More footage, spliced confessions, Harlan's voiceover like a bad noir. She knew about the suicides, encouraged them to climb the ladder. Doctored, obviously, deep-fake audio layering my laugh over his plots. But convincing enough to sway a jury of skeptics. Then the real gut punch, a file labeled Redemption MP4. Me, post-merger fallout, drunk dialing him from a dive. You saved me, Harlan. I'll make it right. Context lost, it painted complicity. Dawn broke gray, coffee bitter as betrayal. The begging peaked. A delegation at my door, Elena, 2 board holdouts, even the Fed's liaison, a weary Fed named Kowalski with a Mets mug. They crammed into my living room, air thick with desperation. Settle, Kowalski urged, coffee sloshing. Crow's flipping again, says you'll perjure if we push. Elena shot me a look, half plea, half dagger. We built this firm on second chances, Scarlett. Yours included.
Second chance?
I'd given Harlan 1, 2, a dozen, each repaid in venom. The board chimed in, voices overlapping like a bad conference call. Equity, immunity, a legacy fund in Mikey's name. Buster barked, hackles up. I felt the same, cornered. Out, I said, voice a whip crack. They scattered like roaches, but Elena lingered, hand on the knob. You're destroying us. All for what? Him. Her eyes, once allies, now fractured mirrors. Not for him, I whispered. For the girl he broke.
Door shut, bolt thrown.
Alone, the plan solidified. Total war. I called the PI, voice steady. Find him.
Now.
2 days later, coordinates pinged. A seedy motel off the turnpike, neon vacancy flickering like a dying pulse. I drove solo, no backup, rain sheeting the windshield. New Jersey's armpit, strip malls and despair, felt fitting for the endgame. The motel lot pooled water, sodium lamps buzzing hymns to the damned. Room 12. Door ajar, TV murmuring infomercials. Harlan inside, slumped in a vinyl chair, scotch bottle half empty, face gaunt under the lamp's jaundice glow. He looked up, no surprise, expectant even. Knew you'd come, darlin'. Drawl soft, defeated. I stepped in, door clicking shut, heart thundering like the storm outside. No gun, no dramatics, just us, ghosts in a fluorescent hell. It's over, Harlan. Testify clean, or the tapes go viral. Mikey's truth, your setups, all of it. He chuckled, wet and ragged. Tapes? You mean the ones where I confess loving you like a daughter? The ones proving I took the fall for your ambitions. Lies layered on lies, but his eyes, cracked blue, pleading, stirred the debt's embers. He rose, unsteady, pouring a splash into a cloudy glass.
Seat.
Hear me. Against every screaming instinct, I did, perch on the bed's edge, springs groaning. He spilled. The OD wasn't engineered. He'd cleaned it to protect the firm, me, from scandal. The suicides? Tragedies he covered, not caused, framing them as my whispers, to deflect his own oversights. You were my blind spot, Scarlet. Saw myself in you. Poor kid from Savannah, clawing up. But you flipped first, leaking the merger to that whistleblower prick. Bullshit, but woven with half-truths, polarizing even me. Was I the betrayed, or the betrayer who'd seized the knife? The storm raged, thunder rattling the thin walls. Harlan paced, shadow long and accusatory. Join me. We vanish, new names, Baja Beaches. The firm's collateral, they deserve the rot. Temptation flickered. Escape the grind, the ghosts.
But no.
You made me a monster, I said, standing. Time to slay it. I pulled the drive from my pocket, not his, mine. Compiled evidence unassailable. One call, and it's done. His face crumpled, not rage but sorrow, real, raw. Then do it. But know this, I never betrayed you. You betrayed yourself, chasing shadows. He lunged, not attack, but embrace, arms crushing like a father's last hug. Forgive me. The dam broke, tears hot. I shoved him back, but too late. The stumble, the bottle shards, his head cracking on the nightstand. Blood welled, slow and dark, pooling like spilled secrets. No gore in the moment, just shock, my hands pressing futilely. Harlan? Harlan! Sirens wailed distant, my call to 911 a blur. Paramedics swarmed, pronouncing him gone. Aneurysm, they guessed later, stress exacerbated. No charges, self-defense in grief's gray zone. But the twist landed like a sucker punch. His phone, clutched in rigor, unlocked to a final text, sent to me, time-stamped minutes before. Scarlet, the truth. Mikey's family? I paid them, but your mom knew. She was the supplier that night, fencing coke for my rivals. I shielded her too. Check the safe deposit box. Love always, Dad. Dad? The word detonated. My mother, dead 5 years, cancer's quiet thief, complicit? I raced to the bank, key trembling. Photos, ledgers, her signature on deals I'd never known. Harlan wasn't mentor. He'd been stepfather in shadows, marrying mom in secret post-internship, binding our fates in deceit. The aftermath polarized like a Rorschach. Headlines split. Heroine avenger or opportunistic killer. Vanguard folded. Elena rising from ashes with my testimony as cornerstone, but whispers lingered. Scarlet haze, the spider at the web's heart. Jake returned, tentative coffees and I'm sorry's, but trust's thread snapped forever. I walked Buster along the High Line, city sprawling and different, weighing the scales. Happy ending? In a twisted way, exonerated, wealthy from settlements, free. But by Kit's shadows, was Harlan villain or victim of my unraveling? Readers, juries of public opinion, pick your side.
Me?
I burned the photos, scattered ashes in the Hudson at dusk, the water swallowing secrets like it always does. New York forgives no one, but it lets you start over. Or so I tell myself, as the begging knocks fade and the real revenge whispers. Live.